Welcome back to the Tales of the Multiverse right here at Comicstorian, your home for dramatically read comic books and the discussions of the comic book universe right here on YouTube. Today we're going to be covering the Tales of the Dark Multiverse issue number 2, which is a series of storylines coming out of DC to give you an alternate take on some of the classic storylines in DC's roster, a dark version of those storylines. And today we're going to tell you the evil version of the death of Superman. Tempest Fugonaut stands, staring out into the vastness of the multiverse. He is the guardian against the dark multiverse, and he can see the multiverse spinning around him, feeling its warm light. But now there is a darkness. Worlds are wrapped in this writhing darkness. Why does it always return, he questions. No matter what they do, the darkness always comes back. It feeds upon worlds, breaking stories, poisoning them. None of these stories are safe, not even the greatest of stories. And he looks to a world, seeing a Superman fighting to the death with the mighty Doomsday. He falls, as he always does, and the woman he loves runs to his side, holding him in the last moments of his life. Lois Lane stares into the sky, her eyes close as tears are spilling out. And her eyes open again, but they're filled with anger as she looks around at the heroes that have gathered. Now, when they have already failed the greatest among them. You have failed him, she whispers, and Batman steps forward, trying to offer words of comfort. He needed you, and you failed him. She turns, her words spitting froth in anger. You let him die alone! Where were you? Where were any of you? Days pass and Metropolis is silent with the funeral of its greatest protector. Lois watches on as the heroes stand front and center. They weren't there when Superman died, but they're there now because they loved to be seen. She stands in the crowd, tears in her eyes, barely able to see the ceremony. And she watches as they pull free the cloth, revealing the golden statue of the Man of Steel. She barely hears the words of Lex Luthor, one of Superman's greatest enemies. And she sees all of this knowing that Superman would be disgusted by it. She walks throughout the city, passing merchants as they try to make money off of Superman's death. And for a brief moment, she thinks that maybe his death will change things. Yet, a few weeks later, she's sitting at her desk in the Daily Planet reading the headlines. She knows that nothing has changed. The world is moving on without their Superman, so she goes to visit Martha in Smallville, seeing the people who raised him, who couldn't even go to their own son's funeral. Jonathan was in the hospital. His heart was failing after watching his son die. And she cries, and Lois does her best to console her. Time passes, and Lois finally journeys to the fortress in the far north. She walks inside, standing before the great statues of Clark's Kryptonian parents. And in the darkness of the fortress, the robots buzz around, seemingly lost. Tears fill her eyes as she places the tattered cape beneath the statues. The only thing that his parents could spare to send with him. Suddenly, a loud explosion rocks the fortress and Lois is thrown to the icy floor. No! No! A voice screams as energy cracks around the room. I am too late! The being is made of pure energy and it flies into the room, and Lois looks up at this glowing being. Who are you? She asks. The Eradicator, protector of Krypton, reborn to defend the last son of the House of El. He explains that he took Kal-El's body from his tomb and placed him into a Kryptonian life matrix to re-energize his cells. But he was too late. He truly is gone. I have failed him, he tells her, and she nods, agreeing that they have both failed the Man of Steel. So the Eradicator roars in pain as the energy from the life matrix burns within him. He tells her that he cannot contain the power. There must be a Kryptonian. Lois stares up at the being, determination suddenly appearing in her eyes, pushing past the tears. Use me, she tells him. And the Eradicator looks stunned at her. He knows that Lois's body can't handle the power, but she begs him, telling him that she loved Clark. You wish to carry on his battle. No, I wish to end it, she tells him. So the Eradicator reaches out, taking Lois's hand, with energy coursing through her body. The fortress explodes, crumbling inward. And from the rubble, a being of energy leaps into the air. Lois rockets into orbit, tying Superman's tattered cape around her shoulders as her body is pulsing with pure energy. She looks down at her hands in awe, and then at the earth below her. And in that moment, she makes a promise to Clark to make a better world, one that would have deserved his protection. She rockets back towards the earth, ready to get started. But instead of stopping bank robbers, she stops banks. She ends wars in countries, freeing prisoners as she tears fences from the ground and destroys the buildings. She rains food upon those who are starved and punishes those who would starve them. Her eyes burn, melting the weapons and destroying the ones who make them. But everywhere she goes, she still finds death and destruction. She looks beneath to the cause of that problem, and her vision finds Luthor's name on everything. And in that moment, anger fills her eyes, and she knows that she is not Clark. In Metropolis, Lex is pouring himself a glass of wine, and he turns to see Lois floating outside his window. Well, we all agreed differently, he notes. I know it's you, Lex. I know what you've done, she tells him, but he smiles, asking her, be more specific. He tells her of regional conflicts he started to up his profits, a vaccine shortage to push up his stocks. He laughs about getting around the climate regulations. And then he turns, his smile almost deeper. I've got his cousin on my leash. I routed every dollar of the Tomorrow Foundation to fund child soldier militias. Oh, and I murdered my secretary on the way home from the funeral, just to let him know that I could. And I won. But he continues to gloat, because he knows that Lois can't prove any of this, just like Superman couldn't. So maybe it's time that you learn what he did a long time ago and go save a cat from a tree. Suddenly, Lois's fist crashes through the windows, wrapping around Luthor's neck. She pulls him free, lifting him into the air, tears in her eyes. He was Clark Kent, she tells him, and Luthor looks at her shocked. She rockets them up and out of the Earth's atmosphere, their bodies bursting into flames. She is flying so fast. And as they reach the darkness of space, Luthor is no more than ash in her hands and drifts into the void. She knows that she should feel bad, but she doesn't. So she begins her work, dismantling LexCorp, Intergang, the League of Shadows, Cadmus, but she doesn't stop. She goes after the killers, Ra's al Ghul, Black Adam, Victor Zsasz, Deathstroke, Parasite. One by one they fall. Laughter echoes through the dark rooftops of Gotham City, and the Joker turns, looking over his shoulder when suddenly Lois is before him, her eyes burning with anger. She says no words, and the Joker is burned to ash before her. Lois, what have you done? Batman questions, landing on the rooftop behind her. What you never could. How many have died from him? Batman tries to explain to her that there are certain lines that they can't cross, but anger fills her voice as she tells him, you're wrong! It's always the same with you people for years. People are dying and it's just a game to you. Can't you see how pathetic you are? You are all failures! Batman stops staring at her. Was Clark a failure? Lois looks away. He's dead. And if he's dead, they don't get to live. I won't let him die in vain. You already have, Bruce tells her, but she lashes out, knocking him away with a lightning-fast blow. Batman flies across the rooftop, cracking concrete as he lands, and he reaches for the kryptonite in his belt, but she's too fast, knocking it away. Don't, she tells him. Do you have any idea how much he held back? But Batman punches out, catching her with a taser that knocks her back. He struggles to his feet, clutching at his broken ribs. Lois stands over him, telling him that Clark always pitied Bruce, how he wanted him to stop. Batman turns, ready to attack again. I don't stop. No, you don't. And her eyes burn, and for a brief moment, the Gotham rooftops are bathed in light. Lois flies away, leaving the city of Gotham behind. She continues to fix the world, and then the imposters come. The clone, the man in the suit, but she knows that they don't matter. Only one matters, the one claiming Clark's name. Lois screams across the skies over Metropolis, finally meeting this cyborg Superman. Morning, Lois. What'd I miss? He asks, his voice so close to Clark's that it's creepy. You're not him, she states simply, and the imposter stares at her for a moment before dropping the facade. No, I'm not. I had a whole story ready to go, but you're too smart for that, aren't you? He admits, and she yells at him, demanding that he take the symbol off, that he doesn't deserve it. Oh, and you do? I know you have blood on your hands. You're not trying to honor the Man of Steel's legacy. You're trying to burn it down. Starting with Metropolis, he snarls, and wires and robotics suddenly explode out of the buildings around them with Lois wrapped up. You changed the world, Lois, but you weren't enough. Now that he's left you all alone. I don't know, Superboy suddenly calls over his shoulder as Steel brings his hammer across the cyborg's face. You look pretty outnumbered to me. Steel moves in to help free Lois as Superboy takes on the cyborg, but she yells at the armored man, telling him to help the young clone. I'm more powerful than the real Superman, Cyborg tells him, catching the young boy's fist. Don't waste my time. The blast from the cyborg's eye beam melts into Superboy, setting him ablaze. So Steel tries to help him, but Cyborg Superman raises his hand, crushing the metal suit. Lois screams, ripping her way free of the robotics that are holding her, and she blasts into Cyborg Superman with her heat vision, throwing him through a building. Angered, she rushes at him, but the blow knocks her away, and then the two go back and forth. Time passes and the destruction is all around them, and she knocks him away again, destroying another building. But that's when she hears it. People running and screaming as the rubble falls on them. But a voice calms them as he catches it. It's all right, I'm here, Superman tells them, reassuring them in a way that only he can. She watches this man in his dark suit with his long mullet. He's weak, straining to throw the debris to safety, as she knows that it's him. She floats before him and Clark looks at her, stunned. Lois? How are you? She begins to ask, but Clark shakes his head. He doesn't know. The Eradicator placed him into the life matrix and it just took longer than he expected. But I'm back now. He looks around and he sees the people stare at Lois in fear. They're afraid of you. Why are they afraid of you, Lois? The two stare at each other for a moment before they're interrupted. Wow, I don't believe it. How many people get to die twice? Cyborg Superman asks, aiming a kryptonite cannon at Superman. Lois launches herself, anger fueling the energy in her body, and she bashes through the cannon, destroying it, releasing the kryptonite into the air. I won't let you take it from me again! She screams, and the kryptonite gas hits her. Her human side helps her survive as she fights through the cloud, finding Clark lying on the pavement. She holds him, looking into the eyes of the man that she loves, and they stare back at her with terror. Tears fill her eyes as she whispers for him to hold on, but once again, the Man of Steel dies in her arms. Tempest Fugonaut watches as Lois is cradling the dying Superman, vowing to create a world that deserved him. He sees her eyes burn, for Lois is now the Eradicator, the dark avenging angel of the multiverse, beyond salvation. Fugonaut looks out over the multiverse, over the darkness that has seeped in. He feels pity for those who have fallen prey to the dark, for he knows that they must cherish the light that they have. And that is the second issue of the Tales of the Dark Multiverse. Now, if you want another one of these, please give this video a like and make sure you subscribe to our channel. Due to the YouTube situation, we need you to hit that bell, letting you know that there's a notification when we do the next part of this. And thank you so much for your support. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time right here at Comicstorian.